Hi there, Jasmine from Redwood Financial, and this week's frequently asked question is how are pensions divided in divorce? It's a really great question, and obviously we never plan on having to go through a divorce and ask these types of questions, but it is important to understand if you are going through a divorce, how your pensions may be viewed and treated. Now, obviously, it goes without saying that every divorce settlement is going to be unique between spouses, and it's going to depend on your other assets as well as your individual needs now the marriage is ending. But typically speaking, there are two ways in which a pension will typically be dealt with in a financial settlement. The first is a simple offsetting arrangement. So, for example, if I want to keep my pension, then I might say to my soon to be ex spouse, why don't we offset the value of my pension against other asset values that you can then keep? So, for example, you might commonly see a spouse keeping the family home and then the other spouse keeping their pension if they're of equivalent value or there or thereabouts. You might even end up splitting the house in an unequal split. Again, if I want to keep my pension and therefore I'm gonna take a smaller share in the value of the family home, giving the larger share of the family home to my spouse so that they're not disadvantaged. And we're just offsetting one asset for another, but it allows me to keep full access to the whole of my pension. Whilst that is a way that the pensions can be dealt with, it doesn't always meet everyone's needs because, of course, whilst you might want to have some money in a pension, you also probably want to have some cash that is available to you right now if you're coming away from a marriage, and you possibly even might want to have a stake in the family home or a share of the sale proceeds to get yourself back on the property ladder. So for a lot of clients, it's not always desirable to have all of their assets tied up in a pension. Equally, for the other spouse, they might not have a large pension pot, and so they might like the idea of having some of your pension and also then other assets as well. So again, they've got that flexibility over different assets in different sources. So typically what is most common that happens on divorce with pensions is that you'll typically be awarded a pension sharing order. A pension sharing order is something that the court will sign off and agree on as part of the divorce settlement to basically agree to share or split someone's pension. Now, again, it doesn't always necessarily mean that that split is going to be equal. That's going to come down to your individual negotiations as part of the divorce and the financial settlement. But let's just keep things easy for now and say a 50-50 pension sharing order is awarded. That means I get to keep 50% of my pension value and 50% of my pension is then going to be transferred into the name of my soon-to-be ex-husband. He now has his half of my pension in his name. He's no longer dependent on me or my pension. We've got a clean break, which is important for a lot of people. He can choose then to go on and invest his pension however he sees fit, use it to generate his income in retirement, and it's got nothing to do with me. So we've really kept things nice and clean and separate. Yet I've still got my 50% left of my pension, which I can now focus on building back up following on from the divorce and providing for my own retirement. So it means that we don't have any links or associations and we're not tied together for the rest of our lives in terms of making sure that our pensions are linked in some way even after the divorce. In the old days, you did sometimes used to see pension agreements whereby a spouse might retain a right to some income from a pension later on at the point of retirement. But as I say, it means then we've got to keep in contact, we've got to keep having communications right up until retirement age. And for a lot of people, they just want simply a clean break. So a pension sharing order is normally going to be the best way to do that, split it nice and cleanly, and then be able to move on with our own retirement planning and provision, whilst also then splitting the rest of the assets. So we get a good mixture of retirement assets as well as perhaps cash proceeds from the house sale that we can now go and set ourselves up with our own financial position now the marriage is ended. So I hope that helps answer that question. If you do want more information on pensions, retirement planning, and even things like pension sharing orders, check out our website. We've got lots of information, blog articles, as well as our roadmap to retirement webinar as well, which is completely free to watch. So hopefully that helps answer this question, and I'm looking forward to answering more questions next week.